Welcome back. The Department of Social Development arrived at OR Tambo International Airport with a 2-year-old baby repatriated from a Dakar prison in Senegal earlier today. The toddler is said to be born in Senegal and has been in the care of the mother, who was arrested last year in that country for drug trafficking. The department was notified by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation through its International Social Services Directorate in August 2023 that the biological mother of the child was arrested last year. The mother gave birth to the child while she was incarcerated. The minor is considered to be in distress since a prison is not a conducive environment for the upbringing of the child. The mother nominated the grandmother of the child as the guardian in the country while she serves her sentence in Senegal. The National Department of Social Development requested the Eastern Cape Government of Social Development to investigate the circumstances of the nominated foster parent. The child will be integrated with the mother's family in the Eastern Cape, and the department will be providing continual child protection services and provide support to the family. Since 2015, the department has repatriated 21 children in distress in foreign countries. Chief Director of Communications at the Department of Social Development, Lumka Oliphant, joins us now to talk about this. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Ms. Oliphant. So, as we mentioned, since the date above mentioned, that 21 have been repatriated, children, that is, of mothers who've been imprisoned in other countries. What is the actual policy? What does it say? Are there circumstances where you won't intervene?
For children, we are obligated by the Children's Act to make sure that we repatriate children who are in distress in foreign countries. For as long as a child is a South African and they are in distress in that country, we have an obligation to repatriate them back to the country. Also, you find that in some other countries, when a child, for instance, a mother is arrested and is serving time, and they would just be given up for adoption in that country, and then when the mother finishes their sentence, then they would not have contact with their child. So we are saying every decision in the country has to be made in the best interest of the child.
And that's why I want to zero in on that term, in distress. Is it a universal term that is agreed upon in terms of determining whether a child of a mother who is incarcerated is automatically in distress? Are there ever circumstances, you spoke about adoption earlier on, but are there circumstances where, for instance, keeping the child closer to its mother would help alleviate what would be determined as in distress?
Prison is not a conducive environment for a child to grow in. We have also repatriated children from Brazil whom were found in the streets of Brazil. And if a child is in need of care and protection in that country, it simply means that child is in distress and that child has to come back home to South Africa. Also, when we have our own children here in South Africa, or maybe let me say even migrant children, where we call children on the move, when those children are found to be unaccompanied or undocumented, for as long as they are in the country, within the borders of the country, we have an obligation to make sure that those children receive care and protection. It is an obligation on us constitutionally, and also we are signatories to international conventions like the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and also the African Charter on the Welfare and Rights of the Child. So these things are also binding to us to make sure that as member states we live up to the things that we signed to.
And I was just watching on the visuals we're repeating there of, in this case, the process that you have undertaken. You mentioned that you had to investigate the circumstances of the nominated foster parent, which in this case, which is the grandmother. But just the process of moving a child from what has now become a familiar environment to now a foreign environment, even though this is technically home for them. Are there psychosocial services that take place before the handover?
Yes, there are. The child's mother is from the Eastern Cape. You will see there that there are two social workers that went to Dakar, one from the Eastern Cape and also one from a national department. Before they even went to Dakar, the Social Development Eastern Cape had to go and find out the circumstances of the nominated foster parent of the child. The mother would have had their wishes. DIRCO, of course, would first initiate this process where they would also go and find out what are the wishes of the mother. When the mother has nominated a person, we need to go and check whether they are willing to take the child. What are their circumstances? Is it a place that is conducive as well for the child to grow up in, and their willingness to look after the child? So to answer you directly, yes, we do a lot of that. Then afterwards, we get into the process of then repatriating. We had two social workers that went to Dakar. So you see, the other one is from this side. They have to then hand over to the Eastern Cape, so that we start the process of integration with the family. Yes, psychosocial support doesn't stop. The protection of the child doesn't stop, because we also need to make sure that as we have given this child to the family, is the child still being treated properly, and what are the needs of the family, for instance, because as you know, we have a foster child grant, whereby also we assist the nominated foster parent to be able to look after the child. All we want to make sure is that our children grow up in a family environment where there is care, where there is protection, and also where there is love.
It must be difficult not only for the mother but for the child as well. I'm imagining here there is the trauma of separation with the child's mother, who's then handed over to these social workers. So when they start bonding with them, because they've now been placed in a foreign situation and they're developing trust with this, they're now handed over to somebody else. So I'm just thinking, all of that, is there ever a time where you can facilitate communication with the child's mother or somebody who makes the child feel safe, to allow them to transition in a manner that is gradual but expedient enough?
Unfortunately, the mother is in prison, and there's no way that we can be able to connect them. But the child cannot in any way be allowed to grow up in a prison. I was talking to the social workers as well when they came, and I was asking how they were. You know, they started breaking down, because I think also it's relief that they have brought this child, because once a child from another country is given to you, you are basically representing the country. You are basically saying that I am taking this from country to country. So it also can be also quite overwhelming for them. And I was asking them how was the child, you know, because they stayed with the baby, I think about less than 48 hours. And the one social worker who brought the child was saying to me, you know, she hasn't heard a single word from the baby. She doesn't know whether he speaks, or maybe he speaks French, or doesn't, or is Xhosa, you know. And they are hoping that this baby eventually they would be able to ascertain what language the child is speaking. Then, when the social worker from the national department was handing the child to the provincial social worker, there was something when you talk about the bond. Then the child started wanting to go to the other social worker from national. So we have a lot of work to do, but we believe that eventually, because it's not the first child. When I started in the department, I went to Brazil, and from time to time I go and check the baby that we repatriated from Brazil, and the mother is back. He is big. He's integrated. The mother found the child back after she served her sentence.
Oh, thank you so much for speaking to us. Chief Director of Communications at the Department of Social Development, Lumka Oliphant, just talking to us about the programs that they undertake of repatriated children.